King Von's sister, Kayla B, is trending again after new fight footage surfaced involving reality star Alexis Sky. Reports say it was over a man. The internet's already picking sides. But here's what almost nobody covering this story is telling you. This isn't new. Almost none of it is. And by the end of this, you'll understand exactly how that machine works. Here's what the clip actually shows. Two women in a room, phones already up, and under 2 minutes of footage. Words got traded, they got worse, and then it turned physical. Pushing, grabbing, close-range swings before people in the room pulled them apart. Nobody ended up needing medical attention. What actually sparked it is the part nobody can nail down. Some kind of misunderstanding, crossed wires, something someone said to someone else that neither woman stopped to clear up. At one point, someone accuses the other of bullying, a word that clearly carries history neither of them explains on camera. Someone starts clearing furniture out of the way. Then, about 90 seconds in, Kayla reportedly asks about a man 6 separate times. Alexis never answers. Moments later, the room makes the call for them, and someone ends up on the floor. By the next morning, it had 100 comment sections split down the middle. One side saying Kayla ran the room, the other saying Alexis never gave up an inch. Both women pulled up with real followings behind them. Alexis has her reality TV audience, which has watched her get into it before. Kayla has Chicago, and she has her brother's name, which travels further than almost anything else in this story. So the clip didn't stay in one lane. It hit drill pages, reality pages, and gossip pages the same afternoon, each one telling it slightly differently. And that's when the internet did what it always does with Kayla B. It went digging. Body camera footage of a past arrest resurfaced. Old jail footage came back. Clips of her fighting Cuban Doll came back. Clips involving Young Miami's best friend came back too, from 2 entirely different years. All of it got stacked together under the new clip like it had all happened in the same week. None of that surprised anyone who's actually followed Kayla B, because this reputation isn't new. She's addressed it herself in interviews, agreeing openly that she's known online for fighting and not coming off shy. To understand why this keeps happening, you have to go back to where Kayla actually comes from. She was born Kayla Bennett in Chicago in November 1994. Her brother, Davon Bennett, the world would come to know him as King Von, was born just months earlier that same year. Same father, different mothers. Their dad, known as Silk, was in and out of jail throughout their childhood, which meant Kayla was largely raised by her grandmother. Silk was killed when Kayla was around 10 years old, and by her account, nobody told her until the day after it happened. Silk had been the one pulling his kids from their separate households together. Once he was gone, the family scattered, and Kayla and Von ended up growing up mostly apart, in different circles, on different sides of Chicago's map. She's said openly that people in her brother's circle used to call her an op because of where she was from, but she kept showing up anyway, and eventually, the two of them reconnected fully. Out of all their siblings, she's said she and Von were the two who stayed in trouble together once that bond was rebuilt. She's also had to publicly shut down rumors that the two of them had once dated before realizing they were related. Her response has consistently been that people mistook how similar they were for something else entirely. When Von was arrested and spent roughly 3.5 years fighting a case before eventually beating it and coming home to pursue music seriously, Kayla was the one posting his records early on, back when she had the bigger following of the two of them. But alongside that loyalty, there's a separate, well-documented pattern of physical altercations that predates her brother's fame entirely. Reports connect her to a fight with Ari Fletcher's associate with a young woman named Cavi, tied to territorial tension in Chicago, something she said she barely remembers the actual cause of. In January 2021, tension with rapper Cuban Doll escalated from an online back and forth into an in-person confrontation, which Kayla has said wasn't originally her conflict. She says she stepped in for a friend. Reports at the time claimed she bit Cuban Doll during the fight. Her own account is softer, though she's maintained she won. In February 2022, she was reportedly involved in a physical altercation with Momo, Young Miami's best friend, in a parking lot, with footage showing Kayla pressing Momo against cars. The internet framed that one as being over a man too. Kayla has disputed that, saying it stemmed from an incident near her son's football practice. That situation reportedly continued nearly a year later, before both women eventually said publicly that they'd since squashed it. In 2024, additional footage surfaced from inside Cook County Jail, showing another altercation, reportedly over something as small as a spilled drink. She's also traded public shots with other artists, including Sexy Red and Asian Doll, generally tied to questions of territory or who has the right to invoke her brother's name. Then came November 6, 2020, the night everything changed for the family. Outside a hookah lounge in Atlanta, a parking lot dispute turned into gunfire, reportedly tied to rivalries connected to the Chicago drill scene. Off-duty officers in the area returned fire during the chaos. By the time it was over, one person connected to Von's circle had been killed, his manager had been shot, and Von himself was gone at 26. What followed was grief playing out entirely in public. Days later, rapper 21 Savage gifted Kayla a car, saying Von had reportedly been planning to get her one before he died, and that he wanted to finish what her brother started. A gesture that still drew public criticism directed at 21 Savage, forcing him to explain himself. Around the same time, photos from Von's funeral home reportedly leaked online, something Kayla has said she initially wanted to respond to physically before being talked down by people around her. In the aftermath, disputes emerged over Von's estate, his children, and who had standing to profit off his name and catalog, disputes Kayla inserted herself directly into, weighing in publicly on both. At the same time, Von's music only grew louder posthumously, cementing his and Chicago Drill's place in the broader genre, which meant Kayla effectively inherited two roles simultaneously: grieving sister and unofficial gatekeeper of a legacy that wouldn't stop growing whether she was ready or not. That gatekeeping shows up clearly whenever documentaries or outside claims try to define what actually happened to her brother. Her standard has been consistent and blunt. If there's no video proving something, as far as she's concerned, it didn't happen. Which brings us to the actual engine behind why this story keeps repeating itself. In May 2025, Kayla was arrested on a robbery warrant out of Marietta, Georgia, with body camera footage capturing the entire thing, including her calmly giving instructions about her son and naming her lawyer while in handcuffs. That footage sat unreleased for roughly 3 months before surfacing publicly in August 2025, at which point Kayla addressed it directly on social media, saying the underlying case dated back to 2021, that it stemmed from a fight that wasn't originally hers, and that she hadn't robbed anyone. Follow that timeline closely. A fight in 2021 becomes a warrant, the warrant becomes an arrest. Years later in 2025, the arrest becomes footage months after that, and the footage becomes permanent content forever. That's the actual machine. Every time her name resurfaces, old clips from 2021 through 2025 get pulled back out and stacked together as if they're all happening at once, even when several of those beefs have long since been resolved. What that cycle conveniently leaves out is everything else about her. Kayla is a mother. She releases her own music. She runs her own business under her own name rather than leaning purely on her brother's. She posts about body positivity and self-love, and she speaks about the Chicago drill scene with more actual standing than most people who cover it because she genuinely lived inside it. None of that trends. Only the fights do, because the fights are what people click. Which brings us back to where we started. If you actually rewatch the new clip closely, listen past the 90 seconds everyone's arguing over, there's a voice in the room repeating one word roughly 10 times in 8 seconds: move. That's not a fight resolving. That's a room actively pulling two women apart before anything gets settled. By Kayla's own stated rule, if there's no video showing exactly what happened, it didn't happen. This clip doesn't actually show a winner, a clean hit, or a real resolution. And when you look at what's actually trending under her name this week, none of it is new. The body camera footage is from a 2021 case. The jail clip is from 2024. The Cuban doll footage is over 5 years old. The Momo footage is from 2022 and 2023, and both women have said that one's long been squashed. The newest piece of that entire pile is already over a year old. Kayla B isn't going to stop walking into rooms, and the internet clearly isn't going to stop filming. But next time this cycle repeats, it's worth asking whether you're actually watching something new, or just watching the same footage get pulled back out of the same cabinet one more time.